Hello, hello. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's John Fetchy. I'm the Commercial Director of VR Learning Studios. I hope you're enjoying learning tech so far. I'm here today to talk to you about some of the VR training we've done for our clients and really how that has reduced their training costs, reduced their training time, integrated into their current learning programs and LMSs, and also made their learning more engaging and more effective. I'm going to be joined a little bit later by James Mansbridge, who is the Head of Digital Learning for the British Safety Council. We delivered a couple of right at the end of last year, one in virtual reality, one in augmented reality. And James is going to talk a little bit about their deliveries because they're doing them both online via the app stores and also in classrooms, and also the impact and the effect it's had with their learner groups. Before we start, I'm just going to do a quick background on what is VR. For VR, you need a headset like this, which because it's an immersive experience created by our developers. And what we're trying to do is basically trick your mind. Trick your mind into thinking what's in here is real. We control everything that you see in here, everything that you hear, everything that you do, but most importantly, what you feel in here. And because of that, we can create deeply ingrained learning experiences. So, virtual reality is really part of a family of extended realities, XR. I'm just going to go over them very quickly, but there's a sort of significant difference here. You've got 360 video, which is two-dimensional, not particularly interactive, but great if you want to see a holiday destination or a potential new property. You've got augmented reality for software like Pokemon Go, where the digital world is merged with the real world. And you've got mixed reality, which is really that sort of middle ground between augmented reality and virtual reality. The key difference here is these three are very much for real-time functionality when you're on a job. If you want to actually learn a job or hone the skills and practice those skills to be able to do a job in the future, what you need is virtual reality. So where is VR now, today? A good example of this really is what Walmart are doing. Walmart started their delivery last year. They did them actually on these headsets. And initially it was to train their almost just over 1 million associates on what it would be like to experience Black Friday at their stores. It became so successful, they now have 25 learning programs in there. They're going to be delivering, every single person that works at Walmart is going to be delivered in training in VR this year. They bought 17,000 of these headsets and it's in every single store of the US. So why has VR become more popular? Well, I'm sure you've probably all done a bit of a tour of learning tech. There's a couple of key factors: AI, artificial intelligence, and probably the 5G network that's coming on. That's for discussion another time, but certainly it's going to be a great pathway for VR. But also one of the reasons, and the reason I'm holding that, is these headsets. These are the headsets I say that Walmart delivered their training in. They're the headsets that the British Safety Council are using, and there's a lot more examples we've got here. And the reason is they're very lightweight, they're very comfortable. There's no wires, there's no cables, there's no need for a data connection. You don't have to you don't have to be connected to a computer or to Wi-Fi. And they come with a nice controller, not this one, this is for the show, but it's similar to this. And what that does is it makes them cheaper, VR headsets cheaper, more portable, and just very easy to use. And they only retail at about £200 a piece. So they're now available for both small companies and much larger organisations. So this is a list of some of our VR clients over the last 2 years. And I did a talk wasn't here, it was in Olympia, but I did a talk last year where I spoke about some of the key learning areas that we had found VR had been most effective. So that was mainly health and safety, soft skills, technical training, and relaxation at work. That all still rings true. But what I'm here to talk about today really is to cherry pick a few of these, particularly over the last few years, and really talk to you about how they've delivered their training and how they've incorporated it into their current learning programs and how they've made their training more effective. I've chosen these because oh, that was a bit quick. Can I go back? Oh, so this one will do. I've chosen these 5 because they all deliver them in a slightly different manner. They've all got different learner populations, different requirements. And I'm going to start with, if this works, Deloitte. So, I've already met with a few Deloitte people here today, but this is actually for Deloitte in India. There's about 40,000 employees in India across 4 main sites, and they work very closely with the US, and that communication is key. So we delivered 2 training modules for them. First one was our presentation skills training, which is probably our most popular title. It's off the shelf. You can brand it, adapt it for your company. It monitors whether you're speaking too quickly or slowly, or whether you've got intonation in your voice, and whether you're looking the audience in the eye. And that was so popular that they went on and built a communication skills module, which is an image that you see here, where, and you'll see this probably throughout the case studies that I'm showing you, is they then built a VR environment that was very pertinent to them. This is one of their meeting rooms in Hyderabad. And they wanted it to be as precise and exact as possible because, yes, they're doing the communication skills one in here, but then they wanted to build future training, negotiation skills, difficult conversations, interview techniques. And they've already put all of this in place. So it's very easy to then add additional training in. This one, actually, you've got to read the body language of the avatars and the facial expressions as well. Well, the delivery, this is 3 of their academies that we delivered this into. This main one's Hyderabad, and they put, I think, about 6 headsets in each one. And what this meant was that people could come in and just try the VR in their own time if they wanted to. But secondly, if someone had a speech or a talk coming up, they could come here, upload their PowerPoint or their deck into the headsets, and either practice their presentation there or take it to a breakout room or a quiet area and go and do their presentation there. There's no need for anyone to mentor them, to facilitate them, to give feedback, because all the analytics are in here. And they're all objective, and they're given to the learner at the end of the presentation. British Gas. This was really more of an assessment to see how their engineers were installing the new digital thermostats, the hives. And they really wanted to understand 3 things. They wanted to understand how competent their engineers, how confident they were, and how productive they were. Quite simply, competent meant, in our training, how often did they actually electrocute themselves? Like from a small spark all the way to quite a serious injury. They wanted to also understand how confident they were. You can go to the manual in here, open the Hive manual, and you can do you need some pointers along the way? And not only that, what are people looking at? Let's have a look at the population and see the areas that people are struggling on and need additional assistance on. And finally, how productive were they? How quickly were they able to install these hives? And we can measure all of that. We took all the analytics of that, and we fed that back to the L&D team at British Gas. The British Gas delivery is a very good example of VR on two levels. One is that installation of the hive is very process-led. There's almost 40 steps I need you to do. And I need you to make a decision at step 8 and step 20 and step 25, depending on what type of house they have, what type of router they have, what type of hive they're having. But fundamentally, I need every engineer to do this. And VR is great for this task-based learning. Get them to practice this process until it's intuitive. Secondly, it's a good example of a lot of this training, the theory training is done in the classroom, and there is some digital learning, e-learning with it. But then they were coming out of the classroom and going straight into a customer's house and making their mistakes in there, really, and learning on the job. What the VR has done is covered that gap between the classroom and the real world. And it's that practice area. And it's a safe place to practice, and we can assist you along the way, and also step in if you need any additional material. The delivery was simple. There's several thousand British Gas engineers all around the country, as I'm sure you know. We put it on the app stores, and they can download it onto their phones. It's a low-spec build, so I think it went down as far as like the iPhone 5 and the Samsung S5, because engineers didn't typically have the latest phones available to them. They got sent a cardboard. They got sent one of these through the post, and they could put it in the headset, and they could train anywhere they like. Train at home, train at the office, train in their van. So yeah, a very simple delivery to a lot of remote learners. Danske Bank in branch. Again, this is so Danske Bank were very much about digitally empowering their customers, so that they're spending less time in the branch when they visit the branch, and actually maybe empowering them to do some of their banking online. So for this, it's a customer service program with clients coming in and really hitting you with questions from every angle. So for this, we built the Danske Bank branch. Again, very much like Deloitte, they built a framework, a VR framework that works for them, that they can add lots of additional training to very cost effectively, very quickly. So we built this new branch, and the first training one is this digital empowerment, where you can speak to the avatar, and they speak back to you. And this is because we've added into it our conversation branching tool. And the conversation branching tool means that we can create natural and realistic conversations with the clients. And you're also reading their mood and their body language. We were given an example when we first got to Danske, where the one to watch out for is if someone walks into the bank holding a bit of paper like this. Because what that probably means is they got a letter from your bank that morning, they didn't even bother getting fully dressed, and they are just marching to the bank like that, ready for a discussion. And that's one of the scenarios in here. The delivery is very similar to the Walmart delivery. A headset is in every single branch. So no longer do the customer service staff need to travel to the head office or to their learning academies. They do all this training in-house, and it's recorded against their employee IDs. So this final one I'll talk to was actually a joint venture between the Financial Times and the IE Business School. It was part of they've got an MBA program called Digital Darwinism. And we were delivering this VR module for this. And through the user process, user testing and the demos, it just became so popular that we realized people wanted to do this in their own time, in their own right, without having to do the whole MBA. It's designed for the senior executive management of companies, the C-suite. And it's all about putting the leaders under intense pressure. And how do they communicate, and can they lead under that pressure? It's a multiplayer game, so the VR person is put into the VR headset and they go to a colony on Mars, and the person on mission control has a tablet. And they're working together through a series of obstacles and actually failures, and we're ramping the pressure up until they switch. And then each person understands the other person's issues and the struggles that they had to overcome, but also then handle the decisions that were made by that person in the first part. This is delivered in two ways. Firstly, it can be just be delivered by our consultants. We come in and we bring the headsets, and it takes about an hour and a half per pair, and we can do that through the day. But what's been a more interesting approach, I think, is where we come in and train the trainers. So if you've got a much larger leadership team, or if you've got a leadership team that are, as they all are, very time poor, then we can actually come in for a day, train your L&D team, give you all the supporting material you need with this, give you the headsets, and set you up so you can deliver this in your own time with the software licenses. Okay. And this is some of the other scenes from it. This is the final one. And with that, we come to the British Safety Council, James.
Yes, thank you, John. So I'm going to start with a physics problem. On the screen behind me, there are two diagrams. The one on the left-hand side represents the design in a hotel for two walkways that are suspended from a ceiling across a lobby. The one on the right-hand side represents a modified design because it's very difficult to construct steel to be long enough to support two walkways from a ceiling. The question is, if I modify the design as it is on the right-hand side, is there a significant change? Okay? So it is a fairly straightforward physics question here about the forces on the nuts supporting the structure. Okay. Thing skipped. Kind of spoiled that a little bit there, but this is Joe. Joe is a physics student. He's doing a midterm. And he gets this question wrong, and he says there's not really any significant change by modifying that design. And the consequence to Joe is that he gets a B in his midterm. Right? He would have got an A, but he got a B. Okay, but the consequence is not huge, and he can use it as a learning experience. He gets his midterm paper back. He learns by his mistakes. Okay, we've got some problems with the controller. So this is Dave. Dave is an engineer. He's an engineer in the hotel working on the project. And he's the one that says, when he looks at the plans, there'll be no change in the design. Okay, and as you saw, the consequence to Dave, 114 deaths. Okay, so completely different consequence. Okay, and this actually happened. This is a real event. 1981, Kansas City, the Hyatt Regency, hotel was not long opened, and there was a tea party taking place in reception, and hundreds of people there. There were people up on the walkways, maybe 20 to 40 people on each of the walkways, and the structure couldn't support the weight. So the top walkway collapsed onto the second walkway. Both walkways then collapsed onto the crowd below. Okay, so 114 deaths happened because of that same mistake. So essentially you've got two mistakes, identical, massively different consequences. And what we want to do is we want people to still make mistakes, right? Because everyone knows, one, we can't help make mistakes, we have to. And secondly, we can learn from these mistakes. I mean, we know people are terrible at making mistakes because they're rubbish at assessing risk. You know, if people were good at it, they wouldn't take ridiculous risks. You know, simple things like not wearing a seatbelt or not strapping your kids into a car seat, you know, things like that. So we, as the British Safety Council, decided we wanted to build a risk assessment exercise to teach about risk and to build something that was engaging. So what did we do? Did we decide to build a space station orbiting the Earth for impact? We didn't do that. What about a skyscraper where you can go and get fantastic views of everywhere? No, we didn't do that either. What we decided to build was a kitchen. A kitchen, you think to yourself, right? A bit mundane, isn't it? A kitchen? But that's part of the point. You see, people take the biggest risks in environments they're familiar with. You know, if you do skydiving, you're going to make sure 100% that you're safe when you do that, right? You're going to make sure there's no risk there at all. Or rather, you've minimized everything. You know, you're going to double check everything. Is my parachute okay? Is the safety chute there? Okay, great. But when it comes to everyday activities, that's when people take the most risk. So we built a kitchen. What is unique, I think, among the experience that we've built compared to a lot that I've seen is that it's free roaming. You can move anywhere in this kitchen. Your job in the kitchen is to go around, to talk to people, to watch their behavior, as well as just observe hazards, because obviously assessing risk is more than just spotting things that are on the floor. And it's only by doing those things that you really get an understanding of what it's like in this kitchen. It is the worst kitchen from a health and safety perspective you could possibly imagine. I mean, we've put seasoned professionals in here. Firstly, they say, worst kitchen I've ever seen. And secondly, hardly anyone ever spots everything in it. In terms of learning, what we've done is we've run this in our classrooms, and we've had 20, 25 people doing the same exercise simultaneously. So again, it's something that not long ago, it wasn't possible in VR. Headsets were expensive. They took up a lot of space. You needed to sort of have a 3 by 3 meter area on the floor. So one person did it and everyone else stood around and watched. But now we've got it where you can have 20 people all doing it at the same time. Again, one thing that's different about our experience is that if you just do the risk assessment, you'll get some learning out of it, but it's in the discussion that happens afterwards that the real learning is taking place for us. Because people there will challenge their existing ideas, their existing beliefs. Risk assessment is something that, for most people, it's a tick box exercise. It's not really taken seriously. It's just something to do and file away. But what we're trying to do is to bring to people's attention the fact that that isn't how it should be done. And it's only really by observing behaviours and by talking to people that you're going to really understand what the needs are. So we've rolled this out into all our classroom courses with the Oculus Go headsets. For online learners, because we do quite a lot of online learning as well, if they buy one of our courses now, we send them a Google Cardboard. So we've branded up some Google Cardboard headsets. We send them a link to the app, and they get the exact same experience. And then they can share their thoughts with others online and discuss it there. And like I said, very, very few people spot everything in it. I'm just going to finish then, because we're probably close to the end of time, with the augmented reality that we've done. So we teach a lot of courses, health and safety. NEBOSH is one of the qualifications. I doubt many of you will be familiar with it, but some of you may be. And equipment comes in again. We've got to teach people how to use machines safely, and they get examined on this content. So what we did with the augmented reality is we took something which again is a fairly common object, although not one that you have at home, a pedestal drill. And through using iPads and augmented reality, what we can do is we can have 20 drills effectively running in the same classroom at the same time. And we can say to people, can you operate this machine safely? And again, about 50% of people can. 50% of people would end up losing an eye or an arm or getting a chuck in the head. So again, a great learning experience, one which can be repeated again and again and again, and is completely safe. So from us, the real benefits of VR are that you can put someone in a dangerous situation in a safe way. So we don't have to have those catastrophic events anymore, but yet you can fail safely again and again. Now, the other thing that we've noticed as well is, I mean, this is true about learning in general, isn't it? If you can't remember something in, say, 6 months' time, have you really learned everything? Right? Have you learned anything at all? Of course you haven't. Learning is something which takes time and has to be retained. I mean, that's one of the definitions of learning, isn't it? It's the long-term retention, right? Through using the immersive tech, we've noticed that people are able to remember much more clearly. They can remember their errors, they can remember the mistakes, they can also remember the excitement that they felt through having a much more engaging experience. You know, so with these, we're engaging more than just the eyes. We're kind of really engaging the emotions as well with this stuff. And the feedback we've had has been amazing. It's been really good. You know, our student comments have gone, you know, from being pretty good to being absolutely amazing. We haven't yet been running it long enough to know what it's done to pass rates, but in terms of the motivation of our students, it's had a huge effect, so I'm expecting those to increase accordingly as well. Okay, I'm going to hand back over now to John just to finish up.
Thank you very much, James. So behind all of these deliveries, there's a whole heap of stats. There's a lot of stats. And we record all of these on our VRMS, Virtual Reality Management System. It's built in a classical hierarchical system. Your team leader can log on and have a look at their team, or globally they can have a look at the sector or the country. It's also it's available in multiple languages, as the training is. What it's probably used for most really is spotting knowledge gaps. We can look inside the training, and we're not just looking to see if John Doe passed the training with 80% on a Tuesday. We're looking at particular tasks and decisions that learner made within the training. And not only that, did that population make that same error? And if they did, we feed that back to the L&D team, and you can either decide to address that outside of the VR in traditional ways, or it's quite easy to change. It's code, you know, and we can change that within the VR. It also, we link this in, we can either build an X API and link this into your LMS, or if you prefer, this is a web portal that you can see, you can have logins for that, or finally the data can just be sent and reported to you via Excel sheets and emails, if that's the case. So, thank you very much for your time today. I hope you've got some insight into how our clients have been using the VR over the last year, the different delivery systems, how they've reduced their training costs with this, how they've made their training more effective, but also how they've integrated it into their learning programs. I'm not sure if we've got enough time now for questions. Yeah, we maybe one, but what I'd say is this is our stand here. J30, and James and I will be on this stand for the next hour or so. If you've got any questions, please come to us. And actually, a few of our clients I've seen around the leadership training, the Financial Times are here as well, and I've seen other members of our clients. So please feel free to drop by and ask us any questions there. Thank you very much.